Story. Bulldozed my flood barrier, then watched their houses wash away in panic. The Karen flowers, vibrant and defiant, bloomed along the riverbank, their purple petals a stark contrast to the gray silt of the flood-prone valley. For years, they'd been a symbol of pride for the small village of Millhaven, tended by Karen Whitmore, a woman whose fierce love for her garden matched her stubborn streak. But to Ethan Caldwell, those flowers were a menace. Their roots, sprawling and invasive, weakened the makeshift flood barrier he'd spent years building to protect the village. Every spring, the river swelled, and Ethan's barrier of sandbags, earth, and sheer wool held it back, until Karen decided her flowers deserved more space. Ethan stood at the barrier, sweat dripping from his brow, staring at the churned earth where Karen's bulldozer had ripped through his defenses. She'd done it overnight, claiming the barrier encroached on her property line. "My flowers need room to breathe," she'd said, her voice sharp as she waved a property deed in his face. Ethan's pleas about the flood risk fell on deaf ears. Her husband, Tom, stood silently behind her, avoiding Ethan's gaze. The village was divided. Half saw Karen's garden as a beacon of beauty. The other half trusted Ethan's warnings about the river's wrath. The tension simmered for weeks. Ethan rebuilt the barrier, working late into the night, his hands blistered. Karen rallied her supporters, calling Ethan a paranoid tyrant trying to control the village. At a town meeting, voices clashed. "You're choking our land for your obsession," Karen shouted, her eyes blazing. Ethan's voice trembled with restraint. "This isn't about me. It's about the river." The room split. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Old friendships frayed. Among them was Lila, a quiet widow who'd lived in Millhaven her whole life. She said little but watched everything, her weathered hands clutching a notebook where she jotted down the village's history. The rains came early that year, heavy and unrelenting. Ethan's rebuilt barrier held for a day before cracks appeared. Karen's flowers, now sprawling across the weakened bank, sent roots deep into the soil, loosening it further. By the third day, water seeped through. Ethan, joined by a handful of volunteers, fought to reinforce the barrier, stacking sandbags as the river roared. Karen stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching. "This is nature's way," she said, as if the flood were a divine verdict. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Lila, the silent observer, stepped forward, her notebook trembling in her hands. "Karen," she said, voice steady but heavy, "your property line isn't where you think." She opened her notebook, revealing a faded survey map from 1972, passed down from her father, the village's old surveyor. The map showed the barrier was on public land, not Karen's. The crowd fell silent. Karen's face paled, but she doubled down. "That's outdated. My deed is legal." Lila shook her head. "Your deed's a fraud. I checked with the county." Gasps rippled through the villagers. Tom, Karen's husband, looked away, shame creeping into his eyes. He'd known. The revelation shattered the stalemate, but it was too late. That night, the barrier gave way. The river surged, swallowing homes in its muddy jaws. Karen's house was the first to go, her precious flowers torn apart by the current. She stood frozen, watching her life wash away, while Ethan and the volunteers scrambled to save what they could. Screams echoed as families fled, clutching photo albums and heirlooms. Tom, guilt-ridden, joined Ethan, hauling sandbags in a futile stand against the flood. Karen, for once, had no words. By dawn, Millhaven was a wreckage of mud and loss. Ethan's home still stood, barely, its foundation battered but intact. Karen and Tom sat on a hill, their belongings reduced to a soaked suitcase. Lila, her notebook now ruined, walked among the survivors, offering quiet comfort. The village was broken, but so was the feud. Karen's defiance had cost everyone, yet Ethan felt no victory. He'd warned them, but the loss stung all the same. In the days that followed, the villagers rebuilt, slowly. Ethan and Tom worked side by side, their silence heavy with unspoken apologies. Karen, humbled, planted new flowers not along the river, but in a community garden, a tentative step toward healing. Lila's map became a symbol of truth, a reminder that pride could blind even the most well-meaning. The river, indifferent, flowed on. The flood exposed more than just the fragility of Millhaven's defense, it laid bare the cost of division. Karen's flowers, once a source of pride, became a cautionary tale. Ethan's barrier, imperfect but vital, stood as a testament to foresight. And Lila, the quiet widow, showed that truth could shift everything, even when it came too late. What do you think, was Karen's defiance a stand for beauty or a reckless act of pride? Share your thoughts on justice and community in the face of such loss.